Hi, this is Trang. Welcome back to my closet. If you guys notice, my appearance today is not all that. By the show of hand, how many of y'all got fibroids? If you don't know what that is, fibroids are also known as uterine myoma. It's a benign mass that grows in your uterus, non-cancerous, so it's not going to kill me. However, it is very annoying. Now, most people would pass blood. People who have fibroids like myself, we passing out tissues, y'all. I feel like the life force is being drained out of me. And my period, like an uninvited guest, y'all, it can show up at any time. Day 23, day 64. Mother Nature just gifts me this gift of womanhood unannounced. This week, she gave me the gift. I'm barely hanging on for dear life, y'all. So this week's video is all going to be really low-key. Last time I wore my Birkin, I noticed I'm kind of tarnishing. And why it gets like this is because lately, Hayden has been having a lot of nosebleeds. So we're running his humidifier on 24/7. A lot of that humidity is seeping into the closet. And what it's doing is tarnishing the Hermes hardware. If you touch one of their bags yourself and somehow you ruin it, a craftsman will not go behind you and fix that. So usually I do get my bag professionally spalled by their craftsman. It gets sent to Paris. It leaves me for about 3 months and it comes back. Last time I did that was in 2016. The experience was lovely. They only charged me, I think, it was somewhere around $100. The bag came back looking amazing and I got a new dust bag. So I highly recommend it. Last time I had it spa is because of the glazing. Over time the glazing does wear down a tiny tad. Right here it's looking amazing because I had it done about 4 years ago. This time the hardware is a minor thing. He said I could do it myself with a microfiber cloth. So we're going to try it out and see if it works. For this cleaning of palladium hardware, we're going to need a microfiber cloth. You can either use a normal lens cloth from your eyeglasses, Chanel microfiber glove, or you can use something from Amazon, just one of these cheapies. They come in packet, I think, of 50s for $10. I am also going to use some eyeglasses cleaning solution. If you guys have any jewelry cleaner, it's going to be even better. To pass the time, I'm going to do story time with you guys, and we're going to talk about the one time I got offered a Birkin in exchange for sex. Yep, you heard me. I'm going to start cleaning with the Chanel glove because it's white. That way when the residue comes off, we can see it better. We're just going to spray a little bit of this cleaner onto the cloth. Thank goodness I am ambidextrous, right? Do everything with my left and my right hand. Here you go. You see that tarnish? We're going to start rubbing. So I've known my husband since I was 17 years old. He's my first boyfriend, basically first everything. Now, 3 months before our wedding, y'all, we decided we weren't compatible and that we were going to break up. Being that it was 3 months before my wedding, I was pretty much shocked. I was heartbroken, devastated. I felt lost because all these vendors be calling me about these wedding details and I didn't know what to say because, you know, the wedding was basically called off. And I was just so angry with him. Now, clearly, I wasn't in no state to date or to find love at this point. But the anger got the best of me. And I felt like I had something to prove. When a man leaves you, you feel like you're not desirable. Up to that point in my life, I felt like I've done everything the safe way, the right way, the proper way. And then it was just so unfair that this situation had to happen to me. So I figured, the hell with it, you know, I'm just going to suck it up, move on with my life, try things that scare me, just become this new person. So what did I do, y'all? I tried online dating. Nowadays, online dating, nobody cares, right? It's widely accepted. Back in the day, y'all, online dating is mainly for losers. I hate to say it, but it is what it is. Like, if your personality can't attract nobody in real life, and you basically used up all your option of the people around your vicinity, then you go online dating so you can hunt on a new hunting ground, right? Find new people who hadn't been exposed to your lovely personality, and then you can try your luck there. Either that, or you're like me at the time where you flawed in some way. I chose to go on Match.com. By the way, I'm not sponsored by them. I just went to Match.com, even though they got some free dating website at the time. Even somebody like me who was flawed and a loser at the time still got standards, y'all. I knew if a man can't afford a Match.com fee, probably can't afford a life with someone. Look at this. See, you can see the dirtiness is coming out. Look how shiny the palladium has gotten. It's so nice. And you can see the small hairline scratches, but all the tarnish has come off. Yay! So do this regularly, you guys, so that your palladium is nice and shiny. It doesn't get so bad that you would have to get this replaced. If you guys look real closely, I don't need to clean this plating because I kept the sticker on there. The sticker's been on there for 12 years, y'all. I ain't gonna take it off. Look at how well that sticker was placed. You can barely tell, right? If I didn't tell you guys, would you know the sticker's on there? Probably not. And this part, most of the time, is hidden like this. So you can't tell. I don't mind it. A lot of people feel it's tacky to keep the stickers on. Now, I do agree when it comes to these pieces, if you keep the sticker on, because those are clearly visible. But this piece is in the back, and everything is touching it. If you don't keep the sticker on there, you're going to end up with a lot of scratching. And guess how much this piece costs to replace, you guys? It's over $1,000 to get this replaced. These ones are inexpensive at around $100 or so because they're easily accessible, right? They can come here and attach it. Everything's out in the open. But for this piece, in order to replace it, they gotta remove this whole flap, undo the stitching. There's a lot more work involved, so that's why it's over $1,000 if you need this replaced. I don't really mind the sticker. I don't know. A lot of people say that if you keep the sticker on there, it's gonna ruin it, blah, blah, blah. But, you know, the only part that you kind of notice, you see, is a little bit of green right here where these nubbins are. Aside from that, I don't see anything wrong with it. And it's been on here for 12 years, y'all. So when I was on this Match.com, y'all, I was really honest. Because I wasn't out there trying to trick nobody or catfish or none of that stuff. But I put that I was a student, my income was $0. Eventually, a guy reached out to me. In his profile picture, y'all, it was kind of unclear. In the picture, you couldn't tell how tall this guy was, what his face looked like, nothing. It was taken from like, I don't know, 100 miles away. You know, you can see like a blob and that's about it. When I see that people have like a shady picture, I don't even give him a time of day, so I ignored him. But then he kept messaging me. So I asked him if I would have some better photos. He ended up messaging me back with better pictures. After seeing these new pictures, I'm like, he's not that bad, but I still wasn't too interested. Because I'm like, why he send me these new pictures, but they look like they've been taken a couple years back. I still felt something shady about this guy. But he kept messaging me, and he was very persistent, so we talked. And we clicked really well. Like, we have a lot of interests in common. We're both interested in medicine and in fashion. And you know I love bags. And I love bags even way back in the day. So when we started talking about handbag, he knew what I was talking about. Like, he knew what Chanel was. He knew what Hermes was. And I was just really shocked because, y'all, I have a lot of gay friends, lesbian friends, and even my gay friends, they don't want to talk handbags with me. This guy, he just, you know, not only is he very funny, just down to earth, he seems to have, basically, he's like the male version of me. That's the best way to put it. So I was really excited just to have a friend to talk to. After a while, he asked me if it was okay if we met up in person. Now, I didn't think it would go this far. Because if a guy's interested in bags, I wasn't even sure he was straight or he just, you know, because some people be trolling. Then he's like, come on, let's give it a chance and blah, blah. Let's meet up in person. Now, I had some reservation. Mind you, at the time, I was very upset with the whole ending of the wedding. I was just there to, I don't know, in a way, make myself feel good and just feel like I'm desirable and blah, blah. So once I had this guy talking to me, that was all I needed. I didn't really need to meet up with nobody or actually start a relationship. I was basically there to mentally prove a point to myself. So by the time he had asked me to meet up, it kind of took me by surprise. I agreed to meet up with him. He let me pick a time, date, and place. So I love sushi. I ended up picking a local sushi restaurant. It wasn't anything expensive, y'all. So he's making plans to come see me, and he's very serious about those plans, date, time. And I didn't understand it because to me, like, if you on a date, you just drive out to the date, what's the big deal? Well, it turns out he was in a different state. And once he had told me that, I was like, oh my gosh, this guy lied to me. Because had I known he was in a different state, I wouldn't have talked to him because I was not interested in a long distance relationship at all. I told him, whoa, 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 you're not even in my same state, but that's what you put on your profile. And he started explaining to me how, oh, he does live in my state, but he's, you know, for work, and it's just temporary, he's going to move back, blah, 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 blah. Now, I'm getting real suspicious at this point. Because first, you've got like a shady picture of you 10 billion miles away that we got to clarify. Now it turns out you're not even in my same state. Like, what is going on? So I didn't trust him at all. I didn't want to meet him in person after that. I'm like, bye. He started opening up to me. He sent me his credential, his full name. I mean, he went to work and he took a picture of the plaque on the door so I know what he did for a living. And, you know, he got his staff to vouch for him, blah, blah. And it turns out like he's in a high position in the hospital and blah, blah, whatnot. But still, I just felt really weird about it. But all these real life people came on and vouched for him that, you know, he is what he says he is. And then the paperwork and everything. And I was like, okay. And I was like, well, why didn't you just tell me what you did in the beginning? And he said, well, what I do make a lot of money. And I'm online dating because there's no Asian girls where I'm at, and I'm physically attracted to Asian girls, you know, but I didn't want someone who would like me for my money, so that's why I was hesitant to tell you what I did for a living, blah, blah, blah. In the back of my mind, I had so much reservation, y'all. But at the same time, I did have my low self-esteem because my wedding just got called off, and here's this guy basically begging to have a date with me, and he's willing to take a flight, do what's needed to just see me for one date. So it was like rubbing my ego. Even though I did agree to his request of just having the one date, with so much discrepancy in initially what he had told me, I thought, what if this guy's like some mass murderer, you know, some stalker, mass murderer? So I took precaution. I didn't want him to pick me up at my house because I didn't want him to know where I live or nothing. Oh, look at the keys. They shiny now. No longer rusting or tarnishing. Anyhow, I gave him the address to the restaurant, y'all. And then I drove there in my own car, which is an advice I would give to any of you ladies who are trying online dating. Don't let them pick up at your house. You never know what these weirdos are thinking. So just meet them in a public place with a lot of people, just in case they're a psycho. By now, I had given him the address to the sushi restaurant, and he was going to meet me up. So this guy, y'all, he was flying in, and he had to go rent a car, because I sure as heck am not going to the airport, pick nobody up that I hadn't met in real life, you know? I'm like, if you want to see me, you gotta make arrangement. That's how it gotta be. I ain't gonna do nothing. So he did everything. And my job was just basically to show up at the restaurant. Because I hadn't dated in so long, I didn't even know how to put on my makeup correctly, y'all. So I was running real late. Then I get a message from him. Hey, I'm at the restaurant. Where are you? Mind you, it's like flooding outside. So this poor guy finally made his way to a restaurant. I'm still at home, y'all. I'm still at home putting on my makeup. So I was like, I'll be right there. So I'm driving. I'm already late. I show up to the restaurant. I don't see nobody. And I'm thinking, oh, he left. So I called him. I'm like, hey, you left? And he's like, no, I'm here in the restaurant waiting for you. Like, when the heck are you getting here? Y'all, I had given this poor guy the wrong address. Turns out there's 2 sushi restaurants by the same exact name. And this poor guy, he's like driving through flood water to the wrong restaurant. So at this point, I felt so bad, y'all. And I was like, okay, even if this guy turned out to be morbidly obese, 600 pounds or whatever, I was just gonna stick it through with this date, because I had like sent this guy on a wild goose chase. Until this point, y'all, my attitude was, if you want me, come get me. I ain't doing nothing. But since I sent him to the wrong restaurant, I felt so bad. I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. Let me drive to where you're at. And he's like, no, it's too dangerous. I'll drive to where you're at. So I was like, oh, that's really sweet. That's very nice of him. He drove to where I was at, and I was sitting in the restaurant. I was really nervous, y'all, because, I mean, the only guy I've ever dated was my husband, so he was like my first boyfriend. I didn't know how this was going to go, if it's just going to be like some psycho stalker or whatever, you know. But then when I saw him coming into the restaurant, he was actually really cute. Like, he wasn't obese. He was like a little chunky, but, you know, he wasn't fat or anything. So I was really surprised. And he looked way better than his photos, too. Everything was going real good. We had a great time. We hit it off. And at the end of the night, I was like, hey, I'm going home. And he's like, okay. And I was like, so where are you staying? Like, are you going back to the airport and flying back to your state, or what's happening? And he just looked around. There was like a hotel near us, and he was like, oh, there's a hotel, I'll just stay there. And I was like, okay, cool, bye. And I have never at that time in my life met a man like that. Usually when I stay at a hotel, I gotta Google it up like days ahead, trying to find the best deal. This guy, y'all, he just looked around, be like, oh, there's one, you know, I'm just gonna stay there. Like, he didn't need to look for no coupons or nothing. I'm like, well, this is new. Okay, you guys, we're done. That didn't take too long, huh? And it's shiny and new. Whenever he said he'll do something, he'll do it. Whenever he said he'll show up at a certain time, he'll show up exactly at that time. And as the relationship kept going, he kept flying in to see me, and everything was going real nice, and he got more comfortable. Now, one day, he got so comfortable that when he was kissing me, like, I felt his hand be wandering. And I'm like, oh, what is this? Where is this going? He was like, well, naturally. I'm like, no. When I was on Match.com, my profile said looking for a serious relationship. So I'm not here to experiment or anything like that. You know, and he was like, oh, of course I am too. I'm looking for a wife. The thing is, you know, if we are going to get married, it's going to be for the long term. I was like, yeah, I know it's going to be for long term, because I don't believe in divorce. And he's like, yeah, but if you think about it, like a car, you're not even committed for life, and you got to test drive a car right before you buy it. So marriage is going to last a lifetime. So if we're not going to try it out, how do we know we're compatible? Girl, I was like, no, this man didn't. No, he didn't try that car reference. Because y'all know what happened to a car? 10 years, it ends up in the dump. Or it get traded in. So he told me as his wife, I got a shelf life of 10 years. It was so off-putting, you guys. If I had known this and his profile looked like some sleazy old man, rich or whatever, then I had it coming. But this guy, he was young. Like, we only had about 5 years or so age difference. He was successful, but mind you, he wasn't no multi-millionaire. So for him to be like, oh, I gotta try you. Like, I'm gonna test drive a car first before I marry you just to see if we compatible. Mm-mm. Just like Sierra. Looking for these goodies, keep on looking 'cause they stay in the jar. Jar. Mm-mm. My parent didn't raise me into my 30s to give it away to some sleazeball that I met on the internet. Mm-mm. So I told him, no, I think you misunderstanding the situation here. I am a human being. I'm not a car. So the conversation is over. Thank you. Goodbye. See you never again. So I try to dump him and he's like, oh, no, 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 no. Okay, I'm so sorry. You conservative, blah, 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 blah. He didn't want to end the relationship. And he was like, oh, because we Americanized and I didn't know you were like that. But now that I know, I'm going to be respectful, blah, 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 all this. Okay. So you telling me you're going to be respectful, you're not going to touch me, all this stuff. He's like, yeah, all right. Okay, now we're talking. Because if you want to try out the goodies, So after more dating, he wanted to show me he's serious with this intention of marrying me and all this stuff. So we went to meet his parents. I kind of knew what he did, but I didn't know how well off he was until I went to meet his parents. So they live in a really nice part of town. We drove up, the house is big, yada yada. I came in, their house has a whole bunch of antiques. So, it's like old money. One thing I thought was weird was he had a dog. And before he even told me what the dog's name was, he told me how much the dog cost, which was about $2,000. The dog, y'all, it was so well trained. First off, the dog got his own house. It has his own pool. And when I say it has its own house, I'm not talking about a dog house. It has like a legit air conditioner room inside the house just for the dog. Now, even though this dog is living this very fancy life, something was weird about the dog. Like, it knew when I came to the door not to pass the divider between two rooms. Like, for some reason, the dog would come to the door and just stop right there. And then his dad came up and was like, oh, look, I'll show you a really neat trick. And he had put something in his hand, some type of food. And he's calling the dog, like taunting it, like, hey, I dare you to step over this boundary. I dare you. And that dog didn't move, y'all. And I'm like, oh, this is some weird stuff. Like, I don't know what that man did to that dog, but it was so scared of him. And it didn't want to move past the boundary until he gave it the okay, then it went past. But the whole thing, it kind of freaked me out. And I went to meet his mom. First thing his mom did was brought out this photo album, and I thought she was going to show me his baby pictures. You know how moms are. All that cute stuff. No. This lady brought out a photo album. We opened it up. It was just pictures of girls after girls after girls, right? And she'd be like, this one, she a dentist. I tried to introduce my son to her, but he wasn't interested. Flip a page. This one, she's a singer, but he wasn't interested. So we go in flipping pages, and then she's like, oh, I don't understand why he picked you. You such a lucky girl. Oh my gosh, y'all. I thought this stuff only happened in the movies. I could not believe it was happening to me. Then we go up on the top floor, and they had like some antique chairs that came from the king and queen of Vietnam when we lost the country, and somehow smuggler had bought out the throne chair and now they got it in their house. So she was like, oh, why don't y'all sit on it? You over there, she's over there, and I'll take a picture. Now, I'm really uncomfortable, you guys. Like, at this point, I'm really uncomfortable, but I sat on it, I took the picture. Then we go into the media room and we watching movies at his house. His mom curled up next to him, just hugging him. Oh, my son. And she's stroking him. And after the movie, we went out to eat. And I swear, even at the dinner, his dad made some remark. And it just made me feel inferior. I felt less than. It was very uncomfortable. They made it very obvious that they felt that I wasn't good enough for him. After that, he decided he's going to move again, this time even to a state even further from me. Get this, y'all. At the time, he was making $300,000 a year. Even then, he wasn't satisfied. He just wanted to increase his education so that he can cap out at about $500,000 a year. Now, I always encourage you to level up, to learn more, to grow more. But his sole purpose of getting this extra year of training is the money. Like, it wasn't about the skill. It wasn't about the people he was serving. Plainly, he just wanted to hit that $500,000 mark. Up until this point, this man has always came to me. I have never came to him to visit him for anything. But he's moving and he's busy, so he asked me to come out to visit him. And he would pay for my plane ticket, blah, blah, blah. But I felt so uncomfortable, and in a relationship with him, I didn't want him to think that I'm using him for his money, anything like that. So throughout the whole relationship, anything that I used, I purchased myself. I didn't accept gifts, anything, because I didn't want him to think that I was a gold digger. And then how his family was treating me, it was just really off-putting. So when it came to money, I didn't take nothing from him. So I bought my own plane ticket. I came up there to see him. He picked me up. When we parked the car, we had noticed that his neighbor had gotten a new Lamborghini. Now, he's looking at that Lamborghini, and he's just saying to me, yeah, I want to get that. And I'm like, so why you want to get the Lamborghini? Because he was driving a pretty nice car himself at the time. And it was new. I think he had just purchased it about 2 years old, something like that. So I didn't understand why this man all of a sudden then wanted a Lamborghini. And his sole purpose of getting the Lambo was because his neighbor had one. And he's a tall guy, y'all. Like 6 feet or taller. Just a big size. And the Lamborghini, they really small cars. So I was saying to him, I don't know, hon. I don't know if you can fit in a Lamborghini. It looks like a really small car. And he is like, if Shaq can fit in a Lambo, so can I. It was just so obnoxious. Then after that incident, we came into his penthouse, and I don't know, I went into the closet to put my stuff up, and I realized he had like probably hundreds of pairs of jeans, y'all. And they were designer. I'm like, why do you have so many pairs of jeans? And they look practically the same. And he's like, oh, when I was younger, my parent didn't dress me in jeans. And I went to school and I got made fun of. So now that I make my own money, I just buy a lot of jeans. That speaks to me like his mental state. He didn't grow up. Like, he bought jeans in his 30s to somehow heal the wound of him in middle school. You know what I mean? Like, mental wise, he wasn't too mature. Before, since we were long distance, I didn't know all this stuff about him. But now that I'm seeing him in his natural habitat, the more I'm realizing things that I don't like about him. More and more red flags are just popping up. Okay, y'all. So here's where it gets creepy. Now, when he's at work, I'm alone in the penthouse with nothing to do. And I'm looking through the windows and seeing nothing but buildings. And I'm looking down. I noticed there's a Tiffany. And I was like, oh, we've smacked in the middle of the city. Maybe there's some other stores here. Like, I'm really interested in Hermes. And this state has lower tax rate than the state that I was at. Maybe I get some. So when he got home from work, I was like, hey, do you know if there's an Hermes around here? And he's like, I don't know, but there's a Tiffany right below us. And he was like making hints. He's like, you want to stop by? You could try on some rings and, just in case in the future. So he was like, hint, maybe he'd get me a Tiffany ring. You know what I mean? Like, and I was like, no, I'm not really interested in Tiffany if there's an Hermes. And he was like, oh, something along the line, if I played my cards right, then I could have a Birkin or Kelly. And by playing my cards right, I'm talking about giving away the goodies, if you know what I mean. So while I'm in the penthouse, he still had a work that he had to go to. And he told me, oh, don't leave. If you need anything, use room service. I don't want you walking in the street. It could be dangerous. You might get kidnapped, things like that. Surely this boy didn't know that I grew up in the hoods, y'all. Like, in my neighborhood, sometime when you wake up the next morning, there'll be bullet holes on the siding of your house. So I'm not really afraid of walking down the street, especially because he's living in a penthouse in the middle of the city. All these brand name stores. Not exactly like I'm, you know, we in the middle of the projects, you know what I mean? So I wasn't afraid, but he really did not want me to walk in the street. So the next morning when I woke up, I was going to call for breakfast. And I looked over on the nightstand. And here it is, $100 bill just on the nightstand. Y'all, let's not get this twisted. He and I don't even sleep in the same bed. But the fact that he put the $100 bill on the nightstand, it just made me feel like a hooker. I understand the gesture. He trying to say like, oh, you know, if you need the money for room service. But at the same time, it's almost, I felt insulted, y'all. It was weird. I didn't like it at all. So he left work, came back to have lunch with me. I'm like, you put that money there? And he's like, yeah, I thought that you use it for breakfast. I'm like, that is just such a weird gesture. And how you did it, it just, it's gross. And he was like, oh, I didn't mean it that way. I don't know, the more I spent time with him, the less I'm beginning to like this man. After that night, we ended up going to a party. He got invited to I think it was 4th of July party with all the big wigs where he worked. And he's a social butterfly. He has a lot of aspiration to climb the corporate ladder and all this stuff. So it was very important that I dressed up nicely and presented myself well to this group of people. So we in this party. And one thing y'all might not know about me is I do not drink alcohol. In my whole life, up to that point, there had been only 2 times that I've drank alcohol. Once because it was in a punch and I was unaware that it was in the punch and it did nothing because it was so diluted. A second time was after a really big exam. Me and my friends went out for a drink. And after I had drank the alcohol, y'all, I became a social butterfly. I talked to everybody. I gave everybody hugs, including homeless people, you know, that were walking around the bar. Yeah, I gave everybody hugs and it kind of scared me. So I'm like, nope, not doing alcohol anymore. So I told him that I don't do alcohol. He was like, oh, you know, but you can't. If one of the bigwig's wife offer you the alcohol, you have to drink it. If not, it'll be an insult. So you need to drink the alcohol. And I felt that that was kind of disrespectful. Because if you with somebody and you care about them, their needs comes first. And all he cared about was that I look attractive, you know, that I had good conversation, that I was basically arm candy for him in this group of people, right? And I know y'all don't believe it, but back in the day, before I birthed Hayden and all this, I used to look attractive. Anyhow, so I'm going to the party. I'm looking good. I'm making him look good. He was introducing me to people. It was like he made an effort not to tell them what I did for a living. Because I work in healthcare, but I think he wanted me to have a larger title so that I would compliment him because everybody in that party had a big title. And, you know, I'm just a small fish in the healthcare world. And he was, I don't know, it was almost like he was ashamed of what I did because what I did was not as prestigious as what the other people in the party was doing. That made me feel really self-conscious. Now, exactly as I predicted, the party got going. I was offered alcohol. I said no. And I looked over at him. He gave me this ugly ass look. And I'm like, ugh. So this lady who had a major role in this guy's job told me, oh, you know, this is just a fruit punch. It's 90% fruit. It's not even that much alcohol. Don't worry. I know you don't usually drink alcohol. It's just a little bit. And she's just like, in a way, peer pressuring me to take this alcohol. So finally, between him, the lady, and the other people there, I finally drank. And I only drank a little bit, y'all. Tell me why after I drank this cup, I felt like I was hit by a tons of brick. Like I could not keep my eyes open. I felt so sleepy. Almost like somebody was sedating me before surgery or something, you know. And I didn't want to be a bad conversationalist or being unsocial. But I gotta excuse myself. I think some of the kids were watching TV in another room. So I was like, oh, let me go check up on the kid. And I went over there. I sat on a sofa. Next thing I knew, I opened my eyes and hours has passed. Like, I was alone in that room. There was nobody there. I'm like, where's everybody? So I walked out. I didn't know how many hours has passed, y'all. I walked out to the veranda. These people, they rich. They live in like a historic property. They hired their own personal people who did firework for 4th of July. And you know, you have to own an estate with a large enough area, land for you to have your own fireworks shows. But they had their own fireworks show and they like looking at firework and whatnot. So I sat down and he was like, oh, so where were you? Girl, this guy, I don't know how long I had been knocked out. He hadn't checked up on me one time, y'all, because he didn't know where the heck I was. So right now, like, I'm livid. I'm trying not to show it. The party ends. He comes back to the car. I go back to the car. He's like, oh, I know you not like a social person. This is out of your comfort zone, but I appreciate you so much for coming out, blah, 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 blah. Like, I am hearing none of it. I'm like angry. And in my head, I'm already like, the moment I get safely back to the hotel and on that plane, I'm probably not going to see this guy no more. And sure enough, that's what I did. You know, when I came back, I was like, hey, this relationship, it ain't working. And I don't even know. After that, I just never answer a text, a phone call, whatever. And then later on, I had found out when he moved to this new state, he had applied himself for a dating website for that state. So I'm thinking at the same time he was courting me, he was probably courting other girls as well. So after I found that out, I didn't feel bad. Moral of this story: you never should marry a man who think you are not enough. Thank Lord nothing happened with this guy, because I think if I married him, he would end up upgrading me. Like, he wanted to upgrade his career, his house. Like, he's the type of personality that would never be happy, y'all. In about 5 years, when my beauty fades, he's gonna upgrade me to a new wife. Lesson number 2, don't stay with a man for his potential and empty promises. This guy, y'all, even though he made so much money, I don't think he would ever gotten me a Birkin or Kelly, just because he's a user. I think what it was when I was on Match.com, he saw someone that was a student that was on their way up, you know, he naive, and he's here already in the field for a long time, blah, blah. He was just looking for attractive arm candy, somebody young, somebody that he could manipulate, probably somebody that would give him the goodies, because the promise of, hey, you know, we're going to live up in this penthouse, you know, we're going to drive this Lamborghini, you're going to be basking in Hermes Kellys and Birkins, just so that you can give the goodies to him. And he might not keep you. That's the thing. There are a lot of YouTube channels promoting the idea of sugar babies, sugar daddies, all that stuff. All those stuff are temporary. Unless they are your parent, nobody in this world, nobody is going to give you something and expect nothing. And especially if it's a guy, if they give you something, they want the goodies in return. So don't be naive. And when you give them the goodies, y'all, there's a chance they might give you something in return, and it's not the Birkin or Kelly. It's called STDs. And STDs is a gift that will keep on giving. It's going to give you multiple continuous trip to the clinic. It's going to give you multiple continuous trip to the pharmacies for the rest of your life. Because STD is not a disease, y'all. It's a reoccurring infection. My advice to you is that get what you want in life, but do it with your own hard work. Don't ever expect a man to come in and gift you something that you like or even complete you. You should be complete when you enter a relationship, because ain't nobody gonna complete you. You are gonna be a strong person with or without a man. A man can only compliment you. So that's my story. If you like to join me for more story time, please click like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next